Page 29. The Four Cornerstones. Cornerstone number 1, Theory of Relativity. In order to settle on a rational course of action, or inaction, one must first weigh all pertinent facts in a relative light and carefully define his terms. Let's take honesty as an example. Everyone defines honesty to conveniently fit his own actions. Question: have you ever met a person who admits to being dishonest? Second question: have you ever known a dishonest person? I would probably be on pretty safe ground if I wagered that your answer to the first question was negative and your answer to the second question was affirmative. Since I had dealt with many people whom I considered to be dishonest, yet had never known anyone who admitted to being dishonest, it was clear to me that a term like honesty was both relative and subjective. In fact, every human being interprets everything in life to suit himself. I'm not just talking about other people, I'm talking about you and me as well. We can't help it, we're human. Unlike animals, human beings have the ability to intellectualize and interpret, so the key issue becomes objectivity versus subjectivity. Either through genetics or environment, or both, some human beings are better than others when it comes to being objective, and such individuals are much more likely to be rational in their interpretation of events. In any case, interpreting events with a bias toward our own well-being is a perfectly natural human trait. Once I recognized that honesty was a subjective, relative characteristic, I realized that for years I had been operating under the delusion that there were only two types of people in the world, honest and dishonest. I now understood that a person could only be honest or dishonest relative to the facts in a given situation, or relative to some individual's personal moral standards. That being the case, if someone tells me that an individual I'm dealing with is dishonest, it's meaningless to me. I want him to carefully define what he means by dishonest in that particular instance so I can then decide if his definition is relevant to my objective. As another example of relativity, I pointed out in Chapter 1 that what is hard work to one person might be semi-retirement to another. Hard work, in other words, is a relative notion. Are you working hard relative to how hard you usually work or relative to how hard someone else works? A phrase such as working long, hard hours has no meaning unless it is clearly defined by the user. A final example of relativity is to be seen in the word success. There is no such thing as absolute success. You can only be successful relative to some standard, whether that standard be based on your own goals or someone else's achievements. When a person talks to me about success, I might have a completely different mental picture of success than he does. In order for us to have a rational discussion, he must first define what he means by success. It's important not to allow yourself to be intimidated by vague or subjective words and statements that are meaningful only when examined in the clear light of relativity. Page 31.